Welcome YouTubers to my channel. My name is Albert, or you can call me Albert or Alberto, but we'll probably go with Albert because mostly what my channel will be dealing with is translating French literature and interpreting it, and we'll also cover other things on my channel. We'll cover a little bit of linguistics, maybe stuff like maybe more indirect and not something not too pedantic. And we'll also talk about things like polyglots, people who want to learn more than 3 languages. And in doing so, we're going to also be discussing learning methods. We'll talk about the most used methods today that people are saying are the most effective, and then we'll see when there are times when we probably shouldn't use them and they become kind of stale, because everything pretty much does after a while. Everything has its down points, and then we'll also discuss some of the bad methods and see how we can make them work for us. We'll probably go over like many different type of learning methods because everything does count for something. Like I hear it quite a bit sometimes. People say, oh, I took 4 years of Spanish in high school, I took 4 years of Spanish in college, and I went to South America or somewhere, Mexico, for like a few months, and now I speak fluent Spanish. Well, I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't have been able to pick it up that quick if they didn't have that 4 years in high school and 4 years in college. Of course, we'll go over some of the more modern methods today that people are using, more of the comprehensible input method, which is really popular today and has been proven to work really well. And but even some of the methods that don't work so well, they can have their other uses. Okay, first of all, I would like to give a really extreme example of French, which we'll see after this example that some methods might work better for one language over another. For example, if I said in French, qu'est-ce que c'est que cette chose-là, qu'est-ce que c'est que ça, qu'est-ce que c'est que cela, you will see that if I broke down these words individually, it'd be something like this, there, that is, this, that, this thing, this is. Now you'll see there that trying to memorize vocabulary, now again, this is an extreme example. If we were trying to memorize vocabulary, that wouldn't help you very well. You would see that you would have to learn full sentences and phrases a la carte to be able to get any sense out of what is being said. If you were to say, le ver vert va vers le ver vert, or you would say something like, un ver vert vers son vervier vers venteur. Yeah, basically what I said the word ver like 6 times, 4 different versions, all spelled differently. One was used twice, meaning the same thing, and another one was used twice with a different meaning. Now you'd probably be thinking to yourself, wow, how can anybody get by with a language that works that way when all the words sound the same? But you will see, I mean, this is a very specific conversation. You'll see that context does matter a lot. So basically what I had just said is something like, when I say lo ver ver va vers lo ver ver, that's more like saying that the green worm is going towards the green glass. And yeah, I don't think you'll ever encounter that in a normal conversation. And if you did experience that and someone did say that, then you will know what they're talking about. Okay, so I'll give you some examples from other languages that you can see like there could be a benefit from it. Like in German, they have that word bitte. Bitte, what is bitte? Well, I've heard them use bitte in instances to represent please, go ahead, here we go, you're welcome, not at all. Or someone tells you, pardon me, I slept with your sister, but can we still be friends? And I think you failed that exam last week. And you would say, bitte? So you can see the word can be used many different ways. And I'll give you another example of a word being used repeatedly how it's not that big of a deal. Like in Spanish, we would say, here are some phrases in Spanish. Volverse loco, quedarse ciego, ponerse rojo, hacerse rico, llegar a ser ministro, convertirse how do you say it? Convertirse en un héroe, I guess it is. Well, check the way you would say it in Italian. Diventare matto, diventare cieco, diventare rosso, diventare ricco, diventare ministro, diventare un eroe. Oh, that's weird for Spanish being my second language. The Italian sounded a lot easier to me. It makes me want to just think of shutting off this video and going to go learn Italian. But no, we're not going to do that right now. I'm going to continue here. Okay, let's look at English now. Oh yeah, English. There's nothing weird about English. Well, I mean, in English we got stuff like minute and minute. 2 different words that probably shouldn't be spelled the same. We have I'm content with his content. Now, what if we were to mix that up and say something like I am content with his content with his content. I'm sure if you thought about it for a while, you could figure it out. But we have other things like that in English, like I object to this, to that object. Yeah, so kind of weird. I need to read what I read again. Yeah, that's not so bad. And excuse me, but there's no excuse for this. And this one I really like pretty good. Someone should wind this post up and throw it in the wind. What if I said someone should wind this post up and throw it in the wind? Yeah, I mean, at first, if you heard that, someone made that mistake, you wouldn't know what they're talking about. So yeah, that's English is not so good at that either. So let me see what else we got here. Oh, why are worth and price synonyms, but worthless and priceless antonyms? Yeah, okay. And one I've noticed here, like it's just when you think it's going to be consistent, it's not. We got horror, horrible, horrific. Yeah, those all mean the same thing. But then on the other end, we got terror, terrible, terrific. Yeah, that's not very consistent. Why couldn't terrific just mean something like terror and terrible? But it doesn't, and that's just the way it is. So now for me to get into the things that I think are important that could help with your reading comprehension in French, and we'll go over those now. Oh, before we get into like an examples of that I think will help us with our French comprehension, I'd like to talk about real quick grammar. I may have mentioned it before, I'm not sure, but in dealing with grammar, I'm not going to deal with it too much because to me, a lot of grammar you get intuitively. Grammar for me is like I would say like supplements. Like what a supplement is to supplement. You know, you still need the diet and exercise, and the exercise specific to the sport maybe that you're doing, and a proper diet. And the supplements are not as important. They just help, give you that little extra. Unless you're talking about professional sports, and supplements become like a major thing. But those are illegal substances, and we're not talking about that. We're talking about just normal stuff here. But anyway, like in grammar, we have stuff like I'm going to give you an example that you may know more than you really think. Take in English when we say something like the ugly little old rectangular brown Italian leather notebook. Now, me just saying that, I just follow 8 rules of grammar, and if you were to say it back to me, you would probably say it back the same way, and we would ask each other, well, how do we know that those adjectives go in that order? And all of us would be like, I don't know. But we are following 8 rules. I mean, I would have to read this off because I don't even know them by heart. Yeah, so when you read something like that, you usually give your opinion first, then the size of the object, then the age, then the shape, then the color, then the origin, then the material it's made out of, and then its purpose. We do all of that without having learned none of it, but we're able to do that. So, but even me, if I said the ugly little old rectangular brown Italian leather notebook, I myself might get maybe a pair of those wrong, or maybe 3, but that's when the study of grammar comes into play. You look it up, you make the minor adjustment, and then you go on your way, and now you know how to say it. But even if I said one of them wrong, I mixed 2 of them up, no one would notice, and the conversation would continue. So vocabulary is very important, and even more than vocabulary, learning vocabulary within context, at least within a sentence, and because sometimes you'll see in language words change meaning from one context to the next. So that's something to keep in mind. And okay, now we'll get to the examples I think are really important for reading comprehension in French. Okay, what I think is really important when reading French literature is your rhythm, your cadence, your speed, your starts, your stops, and when you decide to pick up the pace. All that's really important. I mean, at first I would say it's really important, and then after a while you're probably saying the most monotone way possible, and you'll get the sense of what it's saying. But the first time when you come across some of these sentences and some of these things said in French, you might have to say it to yourself a certain way to grab a hold of the meaning. An example in English, if I were to say, let me see here, a woman without her man is nothing. And you know what I mean when I say that, but imagine if I said it somewhat differently because of different punctuation. Instead of saying a woman without her man is nothing, what if I said a woman without her man is nothing? Oh, now that completely changes the meaning of the whole sentence. And there's some stuff you can get away with. Some stuff is very flexible. Like if I were to say, are you as bored as I am? Now, if you were to say that backwards, am I as bored as you are? It would mean the same thing. So we got some flexibility there, unlike the previous example. And here's one that's interesting. She told him that she loved him. Now, if you put the word only anywhere in this sentence, it changes the meaning of the sentence completely. Like if you said, Only she told him that she loved him. Or she only told him that she loved him. Only him, yeah, okay. She told only him that she loved him. Oh, okay. She told him only that she loved him. She told him that only she loved him. Yeah, like I guess nobody else loved the guy. And she told him that she loved only him. So you see that one word placed anywhere in that sentence can change the whole meaning. And there's some sentences that you read in French. Some words will be, some words where you would put in English, it would be inferred by in French. And then sometimes in French they do put the word to emphasize, a slight change in the meaning of what is being said. And when I read over the French literature, I will read it over how I think a French person would read it, and then I will read it over in a way that better for us to understand, and then I'll read it again until we get the sense of what it's saying. And then after you get a good sense of what it's saying, you can say it almost at any pace you want, and it'll be understood to you, maybe not to others, but that comes along with practice. More reading, more conversations, you'll know the rhythm of French, on how they say things, when they start and stop, and when they decide to put an accent on words, which is not much, but they do that as well, just like any other language. And let me see, what else do I got here? Oh, here, take this sentence for instance. If I said, I never said she stole my money, just placing an emphasis on any word in this sentence will change, give the meaning a slight different meaning than it did before. If I said, I never said she stole my money, that's different than if I said, I never said she stole my money, or I never said she stole my money, or I never said she stole my money, I never said she stole my money, I never said she stole my money, I never said she stole my money. As you can see, stress on a word and a sentence can change the meaning quite a bit. So these are the things I want to focus on. I mean, another little thing, it's not as big, but we do this in English without even noticing it. Like there's some words that we have, if it's a noun, we say it a certain way, or we put a stress on it, and if it's a verb, we say it in another. We don't even notice that we do that, but we do it all the time. Like the word address. If it's a thing, we say address. If it's a verb, it's address. As you can see, that's in reading, those two little distinctions could make a difference or not. And the same thing with addict, addict, impact, little things like that. So as we're reading, we're going to take into consideration the rhythm in which we read something, and then where we decide to stop and put a stress on a certain word. And a lot of this too, while you're reading, you don't have to be reading out loud all the time. Sometimes you'll be reading, as you're reading along, you might in your head go back retrospectively and make a correction or emphasize a certain word so you can understand what it is that you are saying. And I think some of these, with these tools, and me reading these, when I start reading the literature in French and translating it, and then reading it in a way to where we can understand the meaning, and then reading it once more as if it's, as we've been saying it that way the whole time. Now, I'm not saying that learning French ain't going to be some parts that we might find difficult, and it might confuse us a little bit. I do feel like I have a certain method that I feel that addresses that problem, but where there's a difficulty in one language compared to another, sometimes those things that make it somewhat more difficult actually can be more beneficial in other ways. Like if you look at the languages like Swedish, Norwegian, and Danish, they're basically all the same language, but Danish is the most difficult to understand for even Norwegians and Swedish people, mainly because the rhythm of it, the way they swallow vowels, and the pitch. But in doing so, people that speak Danish, because they have to use a lot of intuition to fill in the gaps, they do really good in talking in places maybe where there's loud music in the club, or maybe there's a bunch of people around and you can't understand, you can't hear everyone very well. But for them, since their language has the way it's spoken, they have to be very intuitive to very, very small nuances to be able to understand each other, that their comprehension and their intuition for understanding each other in more circumstances and more situations is more beneficial for them than it would be maybe if you spoke Norwegian or Swedish. And so like if an English person wanted to speak one of those three, probably one of the easiest to learn would probably be Swedish first, and then Swedish first, I couldn't say that, Swedish first, yeah. And then, but I mean, if you want to learn Danish, by all means, go ahead and learn that. That is a very interesting language in and of itself. And like, yeah, you can't deny again that there are some parts of language, certain languages that are more difficult than others. Like even for kids, like Japanese, kids in Japan, when they study their characters, their hiragana and katakana and their kanji, they have to spend more time doing that than we do with our alphabet and our spelling. Even though our spelling is not very phonetic in English, it's not the worst, and French is also not very phonetic, but it is more consistent than English. I know that's not saying much, but it is. I mean, there are worse languages than even English. That would be like Irish Gaelic. Yeah, that's pretty non-phonetic. And yes, this is basically what I'm going to cover on my channel, and I hope I do it successfully. I'll be covering mainly nothing really recent in literature, probably nothing written in the past 70 years, I would say. We'll talk about maybe something written by Albert Camus and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which is, I was kind of surprised finding out for the first time that was a novel originally written in French. I thought it was written by someone in England or America or something. Yeah, so I'll be going over those two novels, and and in doing so, we'll get like a major book review when we do this translation method and going over these books. Probably more of a book review than you'll get on your own, just looking up a book review on YouTube or Amazon. Okay, that's all I have for today, and thank you for tuning into my channel. Like and subscribe below, and please keep the comments nice. If not, if you're around, in your 40s, around my weight, we're gonna throw some hands. No, I'm joking. We're not gonna do none of that. No throwing hands. But yeah, be nice and in the comments below, and I'm looking forward to you tuning in to my next videos, and go easy on me. All right, thank you for tuning in. Ciao.